This podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute legal, tax, investment, financial, or other advice. It is not intended to cause or induce breach of an existing agency agreement.
Okay, so we're here with Ameet Johal. She is the principal at Junction Collective. How you doing, Ameet?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me, guys.
Also known as Junction Co.
That's right.
Right. Yeah. Thanks for coming down, Ameet, and thanks for your time. Maybe can you start by telling our listeners a little bit about yourself and Junction Co?
Yes. First of all, thank you again for having me here. It's awesome to sit around and talk about the things that we know and share our insights and experience. It's definitely all new. I haven't really been on a mic talking about these things. So, hopefully I don't offend anyone. But if I do, that's not a bad thing either.
No.
It starts conversations and everyone has different perspectives. So
Right.
thank you for having me. I do have to go on the record and call you guys out respectfully for the lack of women and diversity on your channel to date or your podcast. So
We were expecting.
I won't razz you too much, but on behalf of the amazing, talented people in this industry, I think it's, you have a great platform and I hope you get diverse voices to share their perspectives and knowledge. And that rounds out our industry and represents our industry. So
This takes me back to my first phone call with you, where I shut down and
I'm being nice.
I know. I came into the office and he was curled up in a ball,
Yeah.
I was rocking back and
I was
forth.
ringing the shame bell. Shame.
Yeah, I've been shamed.
Shame.
I got to tell you, we took it to heart.
And we
have been trying.
probably not hard enough, but it's been on our radar for a while to be working towards more diverse voices. Let's put it that way, for sure.
And I think we did talk a little bit about this as well.
Mm-hmm.
Not so much in residential sales, but in the development community. Is it fair to say that the management of a lot of development companies is a little lopsided when it comes to gender? Because we've had a lot of developers on over the years, and a lot of them have been males at the top.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's the reality of the business today, is that most of the developer, as we call them,
Right.
are gentlemen. And the executive teams or leadership teams are definitely seeing a lot more diversity, and we're seeing more women at the table. However, I must go on record to say that I was just having lunch with a friend, and she's on the development side. So I've traditionally been marketing and sales. She's development. There's definitely a lot of crossover. And she's young. And her perspective too was like, man, I'm still like the only girl, the only woman represented at the table. So yes, it's a challenge. I hope the future of our industry sees more women at the helm. And I'm advocating on a couple different scenarios where working with an investor who is funding and piloting an all women-led development, from acquisition, development, marketing, sales, construction. We want to see women doing that together. Is it as an example? Maybe, but to be honest, I just want to work with like dope women. And if I have any sort of influence to like rally the troops and make that happen and have an organization or a fund support that, then let's do it. But there are amazing women in this industry. There's on all fronts: construction, development, acquisition, and marketing, sales, as we know, but they are there and they should be at the table. And good to hear their voice.
They will be at this table.
Good. And
Absolutely.
listen, I don't want to like razz you guys or make an example out of you, but I think there's something really important in observing, right? It's like, you guys are great guys. I'm sure you didn't, none of this is with intention or anything, but so is this. This is very indicative of the state of like, oh man, we didn't even think about it, or we kind of did, but then we kept going.
Certain grooves that you move through, moving, and
it wasn't on your radar until recently or whatever the journey has been. But I think that's just It's not with ill intent. It's not intentional, but that is where bias exists.
Right.
It's when you
100%.
don't know you're doing it. You're
Right.
not doing it to be like
Malicious.
no.
Well, I'm just thinking about that. In all women-led team, is the idea there? Well, maybe I'll put it to you. Do you think that changes outcomes?
Yes,
Okay, I'm curious to hear how.
I do. There's a great book that I read recently, and I wish I sent a bunch of copies to some of my friends in the industry. And it's Urban Feminism. It's not. I think the word feminism can be really scary. I don't even know what it means to be a feminist. I'm just a woman in this world trying to forge my way and can relate to other women's experiences. And I think that's the reason why we're advocating it for it to be something that is an investment. I think, again, it's like, I don't want to be so siloed to be like, men are like this, women are like this. Let's just approach it from a diversity perspective.
Mm-hmm.
And perspective being the key word is that everyone has a very distinct lens in which they're looking at this business that we do at every step. I think the more diverse people you have that are looking at it and participating and contributing, you get a greater look, you get more perspective, you see a wider view than just doing what you've always been doing. And I think that is reflected when you have women, when you have diverse backgrounds. It just makes for a better project. So going back to the book, my digressions take way longer than the actual point.
Yeah, no, but I'm already taking notes and thinking of things.
The thing I loved about this book was like, it was a total aha moment for me. It's like this Leslie Kern, I believe is her name. Apologies if I'm wrong, but look it up. It's a great book. And it talks about women and immigrants being the first occupiers of urban centers. When women started to work, a lot of single women coming into the city, not having housing, immigrants. We look at Chinatowns, they're usually very close to the city center. So housing kind of took its form by accommodating those groups. Then when you look at the advancement of real estate development, I've been in many boardrooms looking over many plans, looking at the playground, looking at, we're looking at, okay, well, does the playground meet code? Are we using the right materials? What is the city requirement? And what this book showed me was, is there a voice at the table that is advocating for, if a mother is here with her child, has to go to the bathroom, has another one on the playground, how are those easily accessible? Or a stroller on a curb, or any, downtown is chock full of young families, all sorts of diverse people. So also understanding that there are so many people that are urban, they study urbanism from an academic level. I can honestly say I've never had those people at the table. I mean, people who study, what makes for a great city and how is that planned to accommodate all walks of life, or children, women, whatever the case may be. I haven't had the good fortune of collaborating with someone at the table from that perspective. It's usually the development team and the marketing team and the sales team. And so sometimes it's also tough to advocate for those things if you're the sales, you're representing sales, because your voice needs to make sure that you're getting a product that you can sell. Or marketing is like, do we have enough things to talk about? But it's never really focused on like, what is the woman's perspective of this?
Right.
And
not even like, I'm just thinking out loud here, but not necessarily the woman's perspective, but presumably the idea of the playground with two kids and a mother trying to sort out how to get one of the kids to the bathroom is a perspective that's historically been lost in the development planning community, because those aren't the things most people at the table are thinking about. And thinking about, okay, how does that actually factor into the way that we should be planning these multifamily communities, or potentially communities.
And there's so much you have to look at. This is not, I don't think it's a result. And it's not, these are all, these aren't blanket statements.
Sure.
Yeah. I want to temper everything I say with that. But, we're looking at so many other things that just doesn't get its voice, or that doesn't get maybe the time and attention that it requires. We do like kids' rooms in a building. So this is the play area. Well, like, is it really a play area, or is it just a room with some things that
no one uses?
That doesn't
Yeah.
really seem like
Right.
it's, are we creating a friendly escape room for kids? That sounds like fun. But I think the point is, I know from my experience, I've worked alongside a lot of amazing women, and it's not like there aren't any. I could run down a list of 20, 30 amazing women that I know locally that are doing an amazing job. But such is my nature. I will always advocate and push for better representation, because we're just not there yet.
Mm-hmm.
How does Vancouver compare? And we're gonna have to go back and talk about kind of your
Sorry,
start in
we
real
just
estate.
get right into it.
Well, yeah, but I wanna ask you, because you are really you're working globally, Junction, and you're seeing a lot of different markets. Like, how does Vancouver rank in terms of what we're discussing here? Like diverse voices at the table.
Yeah, so I think part of the backstory is I'm born and raised in Vancouver, North Delta. What's up, North Delta? Shout out. Very proud to have been born and raised in North Delta. So most of my real estate career, which has been from a very young age, has been locally. I did move to Alberta through my work in Calgary. Through the marketing and sales of real estate, there's a big snowbird market. So we were doing things in Dominican, Costa Rica, California, working with some really great players on the west coast of California, San Diego, San Francisco. I do work in Toronto. I'm looking to, hopefully, fingers crossed, without saying too much, be in London, UK soon. So in my recent years' experience, I don't need to go back to like 05 or 04. Let's just talk in the last, 5 years.
Sure.
I think that the level of innovation and the level of consideration given to how people are going to live here, what is the programming, what is the amenity programming, how do we activate that in terms of like bringing a property management partner to the table quite early on, not just when the building's done, to really figure out, we got a pool, we got a concierge, we've got all these bells and whistles. How does it actually come to life? My experience in the last few years is that other markets are doing a bit better of a job than us. They're pulling in partnerships. They're pulling in collaborators. The developer, if they're not a lifestyle developer and they're moving into urban centers where they're really pushing, service, lifestyle, accommodation from like, there's great retail on the ground. You've got your amenity spaces, just like this whole convenience, right? That's the thing about living in an urban center, is that you have access to things and you can get everything you need to get done in a day very quickly. And yeah, my experience has just been like, other markets are, in my opinion, outperforming us on the getting creative, being relevant to understanding where the market is, and really delivering communities that kind of have a newness to them. And by newness, everything built is new, but the way that it's activated and the level of culture that's already injected into it when it's like ready to be occupied is on a whole other level.
And just to be clear, when you say activated in that sense, like you mean like,
so when a building's done and you get your occupancy, the residents are the first to move in,
right.
And then like, hopefully, and these are all typical practices, right? Like the furniture gets delivered in the amenity room at some point, and then the retail starts getting occupied, but the leases or those conversations with retailers, the goal is to always have them done by the time the building's done. But a lot of times, as you know, buildings get occupied without that full activation in place.
Oh, okay.
What I'm seeing in other markets is that those partnerships, like who is the grab and go grocer, who is who are those players, and really working out viable deals prior to the real estate being complete. So everybody goes in at once and it's like, this place is ready to go, ready to use.
It is. It's like live. The whole thing is ready to go. Okay, I see.
And I think the technology part too is like from keyless keyless access. These are very simple things, but they're not easy to implement. Anybody in development, if they were sitting here, they would be like, the budgets, the rising costs, like not everything makes it, but we're seeing this newness and this innovation and this leaning into like what is modern, what is the new era of living in an urban environment, and what is that built environment? How does it accommodate us?
Right.
I just find, and this is no slag on Vancouver, I love the city, I work here. Other markets are just doing it a bit better. And I think at one time, we were just talking about this before we started recording. So I will reiterate it, that Vancouver was like the beacon, or is, I will say to some degree, is like real estate development. They know what they're doing, the marketing and sales of real estate.
Right.
Like what
it's
a polished
exporting the expertise.
Our talent.
Yeah.
We have a lot of people that went away for many years and worked internationally and they're back, or, whatever that may be. It's people that come from the real estate development world are considered, I was going to say best in class, but I feel like we're losing our ranking on that a little bit because we've been doing, was it you that said resting on our laurels or someone else?
I think it was you. I think it was you.
Yeah, I feel like we've...
I think we all said it.
Yeah. Okay, good. So that means it's not just me.
I didn't mean it though.
No, me neither.
I mean it. I'll be the one. I'll take the shots here. But I think we're in a world-class city that doesn't feel so world-class at the moment. I think we have those issues of safety and taking care of our community that we discussed. But I'm very keen to see how Vancouver moves into this new era, and is outperforming urbanism and city, creating communities back to where we were.
And just to go back to this idea of other markets or other areas, creating new projects that have amenities that are kind of forward thinking and are actually used. Like in some ways, I think this is a caricature as well, but it's like walking through something in the West End from the 70s and 80s where you're like, oh, hey, look, it's a racquetball court that no one uses. And there's a sauna that hasn't been used for years and it's like dead space, which in some ways, I guess you could think about some of the building's amenities as being just cookie cutter. This is what we do. We have a party room that no one really uses, and we have this and we have that, and it's the same over and over again. But it sounds like in other markets they're engaging or making those areas more engaging and engaging in the idea of amenities in a different way.
Yeah, and I was just going to add to that is it also seems like, and I'd like to get into the process because it seems like the amenities in a lot of developments are kind of prescribed as opposed to asking what maybe the community or the buyer needs.
Yeah, so I'll give an example of this without just a general lived experience. I think we were early 2021, looking at a building in Surrey, had been going through development for 2 years because it takes forever to get projects approved in this region, and that's a whole. I'm sure you've had people.
It's pretty much all we talk about.
Yeah, I know. So we won't do that. But so by the time we're 6 months out going to market, and I just I was asked to collaborate with the developer to kind of they have a very robust. They're a large developer. They have a whole internal team. They definitely not from a lack of talent where I'm brought on, but it was. Sometimes when you're in the weeds on these things and you've been looking at it for so long, you just don't know.
Right. Or can't see your way out of.
Right.
Yeah.
So what I love is that the question was asked is, so everything that we've done, does it still stand today? Because we're seeing people spending all their time at home, people living in multifamily environments that are like going to wherever they can find to like, post up and work there for a bit. Maybe they have a lounge, maybe they don't. So a few areas that this is a good example is like there's a spin room, there's a party room, there's a pool, okay, which all sounds amazing. Well, we're in an era of like fitness is totally decentralized. It's what's convenient for you. It's about plugging in, playing in, getting your workout in. Really definitely not waiting for another 40 people to hop on a bike in a before you can do what you need to do. So it's like, okay, so if we all agree that this stuff has been decentralized and it's not so much about us telling people what they do here, but providing a beautiful space where if they want to do yoga, they do yoga. If they want to do one-on-one training with their trainer, they can. It's there to be flexible and to pivot based on like where they're at and what they need. And we did that across the project. So what we had done 6 months ago was totally viable, but we're seeing these massive shifts in how people are living and what they need. It's irresponsible not to be responsive to that. And if you know anything about our business, making shifts and pivots is like not anything that we are like fast at. So I have tremendous respect and value for the groups of people that were like, listen, we know this it doesn't seem relevant now. Like it just feels like we're making a mistake and not being authentic to what people need and the manner in which they live. So let's do the work now. And if everyone is smart enough and pulls up their, not if everyone is smart enough to rally around this. And we just took a step back and just went, what needs to change? Why? And pulling data to support that. Like we're seeing that this is what people are choosing. This is their preference. Here are the data points to back it up, which is going to other markets to see, right? Like if Vancouver hasn't done anything in a while that might be support our ideation, we look to other markets, whether it's Australia or, LA, Toronto, London, just other places that have urban centers. And what are they doing and is it working?
Right. And in that case, were those amenities, did you pivot? Like,
oh yeah, big
so
time.
did the pool stay? What happened?
So no, the pool did not. So this is, okay, sorry. The pool did not stay. It's expensive. It's only for when you want to do that one thing. Are you hanging out at the pool? Also, Surrey is young. We also made the collective decision that this is not about programming real estate for the people who are going to buy. It's about creating exceptional living conditions for people that will be here, whether they're renters, whether they're students, whether they're young adults, whether they're whoever they are in whatever stage of their life. How do we make this place accommodate, complement, and serve all that from the day to day? So collectively, everyone just kind of agreed, like this is what needs to happen. And we did it. It was awesome. Yeah.
And then, but literally the pool, scrap the pool
because it's expensive. It gets expensive through your condo fees. It's a really nice to have, but we swapped that for, we went for steam sauna, cold plunge, which is like, doesn't everybody want that?
Right.
Like that's real wellness, like that really serves your body, your mind, and your spirit. And, games room, pool room, fun times, like indoor, outdoor transition from this common, great space that is like fun.
Yeah.
Make it more fun, more like places that people want to be with, whether you're 2 people, it feels comfortable, or if there's 20 people, it's comfortable.
And then just following through here. So you transition, but it sounds like it wasn't necessarily because there was lackluster sales.
No, God, no.
It had nothing to, it literally had, it was more like, we're not sure we're doing the right thing at this time.
And I also, now I'm kind of like, I have an outside view because I'm not representing a specific company. I'm hopefully positively represent the industry, but I have my own perspective. I have to give hats off to I will say this, I've worked with in the last year, so we won't go 3 years, but in the last year and a half, the 4 or 5 different groups that I've worked with, every single person at the table wants to do the right thing. So, there's, again, that's another conversation that we have, how the Vancouver development industry needs a rebrand. I advocate for that. I would like to champion it. It is it's comprised of such intelligent people who care and absolutely want to do the right thing. The efforts it's very short-sighted to be thinking we're doing what we're doing in order to get the sale that we need to make the money that we want. I can tell you right now, those are not the conversations. We will get the price because we will create and develop a product that is desirable and that people want to be at. So if we're doing that, then we're kind of guided by making the right decision. and doing right by what's best for the place, the people, and the community that we're going to build. So I'm very proud to say that like it's not a battle. I so far haven't found it to be an unreasonable debate to do the right thing.
Mhm.
Everybody is very well aware of like the shit we've gone through, where people are at, and to meet and exceed their expectations.
How do you go about creating like a feedback loop to learn what people actually want or need?
Yeah,
Yeah.
is probably talks to the work. So I'll just quickly touch on the work that
Yeah.
I do at Junction Co. So this was really born out of I've been in real estate sales and marketing for a very long time. I've done project marketing side, creative agency side, and developer side. And what we found, or what I've always consistently found, is that we need to take the time as a core team, and it's usually the developer, to really focus in on what is the market position of this project. Like, what are we doing here? Why are we doing it? And why does anyone need to care? And that goes a lot further than the typical brief that every consultant gets, which is this is for first time buyer, move up, move down, investor. It's
Mhm.
like, okay, well, you're everything to everyone, which is no. So, and while carving out a niche or carving out how is this place distinct and why, there's a lot of factors that go into that. One, first and foremost, our front lines are our sales teams getting the feedback. If you had a previous project or, you were just in market, engaging with your own sales team internally, which is great. That's the feedback that we need. Talking to other salespeople, of course, that have maybe done work in the market that we're looking to come to. And that is like, what were the missed opportunities? What did you find was the most consistent thing that people were looking for? I always like to ask the question, if you were to bring something that people didn't know that they wanted, because a lot of times we're very reactive, like people don't want, let's say X, I don't know, people don't want, pick something,
Pools.
It's like, okay, well, if we introduced a pool that was more of a plunge pool and it was for their, to complement their wellness program, and it's, would that land? Yeah. Okay. So you just didn't have the language to like, it's sifting through what people know that they want, what people would pay for, and then also looking to other markets. That's my go-to, is that, if we're looking to do something totally one of a kind, which everybody thinks their project is one of a kind, and I will give them the respect to say, yes, it is one of a kind.
Just not maybe the way you think it is.
Just not maybe the way you think it is, but I love to look to other places in the world that have done something maybe similar or of the same spirit, and how did it land? What was, that's a phone call. I've picked up the phone and called everywhere around the world just to be like, that matters, like, hey, you did something similar. I'm working on something similar. What are your takeaways? What are your learnings? And bring it back to the boardroom. So we live in an era of like, you can access information anytime, anywhere. And that applies to all we do too. Like, if I don't have an answer to something, go get it. It's there
Right.
for you.
Can we? I know you were licensed at a really young age.
Yes.
How did like? And you must have had. There must have been like. I'm thinking like when you were licensed, Matt was doing a keg stand in Whistler. Like very different.
And that's why you're where you
Yeah.
are, and I'm sitting here.
No. Everyone's journey is different.
Everyone's journey is different. But
I
how?
was dancing on a speaker somewhere too, so let's be fair.
Can you talk a little bit about like how you got licensed or how you got into the industry at such a young age?
I'll try not to go too far back because I feel like that's just like exposing my age and just it's kind of boring. But I started working in a real estate office when I was in my teens. It was my uncle's office. So it was a brokerage. So I was working in office. So doing, paging the realtors and, looking at MLS listings, inputting them into the board and like, all the thing. And then I got into conveyancing and da-da-da. And I went to another brokerage and started doing more there. And then I was like, well, there's nothing, I don't want to be working in not really receptionist office type It wasn't really where my talents, I thought, were best used. So I was like, all right, I don't know what I want to be when I grow up. I didn't have the answers. I went to India for a while. I came back and was like, shit, I better do something before I start getting called out for doing nothing. And I took my real estate course. My mom's a realtor. I was around real estate and I really loved it. And I got licensed. I was 19. And I worked at a brokerage. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say that's pretty young to feel like you're not doing anything. I feel like
yeah, now that I look back at it, I'm like, oh
Yeah,
God,
man,
I was so hard on myself.
yeah,
Like,
no kidding. You're like, oh God, I'm 18 and a half.
I wasn't keen. I was just so grateful to get out of school. Like, and this is like high school.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
I was over high school by the time I was 13. I was like, this is not for me. I am a, citizen of the world. This is like holding me back. So I knew I needed to do post-grad, right? Like, of course, but I didn't want to. I didn't feel, I just wanted to work. I just wanted to I was like, I'm a working woman. I got to hit these streets. So I felt like the getting licensed was my way to do that. And then I was like, oh boy, it's very hard to deal with people's emotions and be patient. And I have so much respect for the broker community. It is not easy. It's therapist, it's financier, it's trusted advisor, it's expert. There's a lot. And I just, So I did get licensed. And this was around the time where the internet was just popping. And I had an opportunity for the brokerage that I was working at, Coldwell Banker. It was Windermere Westburn, and then went to Coldwell Banker. I approached the managing partner and was like, hey man, there's this thing called websites. And I know we just got email 8 months ago, but there's a tremendous opportunity for these brokers to brand themselves. Everyone's just the same.
Yeah.
So now if we have, it's just all direct mailer at that time too. They're blanketing, doing their,
Right.
hitting specific neighborhoods, but it's just like a boring realtor. It's like, hey, Tina loves dogs. She's got 3 palms. Let's get a photo of her and her palm. Or she plays piano. Let's just get some personality. And that is probably what the pivot into the world of marketing. I kind of went more on the marketing side. And then, residential, went into commercial real estate, same thing, branding, marketing, brokerages. And then I got into project marketing and project sales. Yeah. So now the work that I do with the great experience, which to anybody who's in the industry, I will say this, that it is a wonderful industry that will allow you to lean into places of interest that may be outside of the silo that you are currently in. I know people that have moved from development to construction, sales to development. There's a big capacity to kind of lean into what parts you like.
Mhm.
For me, the parts that I really like are understanding the dirt, what the business case is for it, how the money needs to work, and then working alongside development, architecture, design, marketing, and sales to really focus on what our market positioning is, how the product gets affected by that, what needs to feed into it, how we position it in the market, the language we use, all in an effort to have positive impact in the community, get people interested in us and want to invest. So, yeah.
And so you literally just
I
described Junction Co, right?
That's it, yeah.
That's what you do.
That's the work that I love to do, is project positioning, working through the concepting, working with the consultants, and getting it to a place where the sales team has something amazing to sell. I'm not responsible for sales. I love working with sales partners, whether that's a realtor group, a project marketing firm, in-house sales team. I'm very supportive. I love working with them, but I'm not responsible for sales. I'm really focused on product, place, and who are the people that we're trying to engage.
Are any 2 days at Junction the same, or what does a typical day look like for you?
I don't know. Wouldn't say day is typical. I think, to be honest with you, my effort in moving towards consulting was to get away from typical. I have many years of the days are the same, the meetings may be slightly different, but the battle is the battle.
Mhm.
And as I've gotten older and hopefully wiser, my priority now is to be organized in my day, optimized, efficient. I can tell you there's so many inefficiencies in like this meeting culture world. um, but yeah, my typical day for me is I start my day listening to podcasts after I'm done the meditation portion of the morning. And it's really just whether I'm focusing on some content for Junction, or I'm researching for a client, or I'm putting together a positioning package with the project team. It's a lot of different hats, but I love the diversity of the work that we do, and I don't want to be doing the same thing every day.
So I'm just wondering, like, just thinking through, like, thinking of the Surrey example you used, and it sounds like you came in on that project a little later than you often do, where they were like, "Okay, something's wrong here. We have to sort this out."
I just want to say too, I don't think it was, hey, something's wrong, but it was, we don't have the resources. This needs to come to market. We're running out of time. We need a little time and attention on it. So let's
Right.
let's
Bring
do that.
bring somebody in. Okay. So, but in a typical, as a consultant in a typical role,
Mhm.
say in whatever, choose a market. Like, I'm curious to hear, how do you look at that community?
Mhm.
Do you dig down on kind of who lives here?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah,
So let's use
like
Toronto as an example.
yeah, like,
right?
and how do you get through?
'Cause-
And then also, just as a final thing,
Sure.
how do you get to, who is this for? What should it look like? How is this going to be the best experience? But also marrying that, what do they think they want? What do we think they need?
Mhm.
Type thing. But anyway, I'll leave it to you.
So I'll use a different market just because it's
Sure.
easier to place us somewhere
Yeah.
unknown, or people aren't on the day-to-day out there. Um, I I will speak from my perspective first and foremost, is like, I love cities. I travel a lot. I traveled a lot, probably whatever. It was all legal, but I traveled a lot during COVID. I went to
I
cities.
wasn't sure which direction you're going
I know.
there. COVID. Okay. All
Yeah.
right.
I did 2020, 2021, 2022. I spent a period of time in different cities. I wanted to see how things, like what's happening here, like how are the streets responding, which retailers are open, what are people's safe places. So going to a different market, first and foremost, is like walk, right? You walk the area. So when I speak to my own perspective, I love cities. There is something inherent here, right? Like I don't know that everybody would have the same perspective that I do, but when I go to a city, I'm looking to see, oh, someone lives here. Okay, cool. So if you live here, where do they go for this? Where do they go for that? What's the go-to spot? Oh, everybody seems to like this one, Spanish tapas place. Like, wow, you can really see this is like a reflection of the community. And then you start talking to people. And I love to have those conversations. It's not a waste of time for me. It's like if I'm spending all my time in the boardroom and no time on the street, my recommendations are like empty, right? You have no clue. So spending time on the ground, walking around, talking to people, I usually always reach out to someone from a municipal factor. And luckily there's like, you have contacts now that someone or other within your sphere can make the right introductions. I like to talk to people who are on the social housing side, people that are on design panel, what's missing, what's your challenge, what's going on, talking to the business owners, and then just doing research. Like, again, there's so much research available on the internet. You want to know what's happening in a certain community, what the broader trends are, what are the goals for Toronto as a city? How is anything that we do going to feed up to those goals? And then looking at, again, we have so much, Coldwell Banker, Colliers, Oxford, Gensler, all of these amazing data sets that provide us with so much information in terms of what is resonating in the office environment, what would compel someone to go back to work, what makes like an office lease attractable to a company. What are people gravitating towards on the residential side, on the retail side, in their home? What are they looking for? Are USB ports in the home like a must? Kind of. Now it is, So there's data, there's lived experience, there's your own perspective, there's intuition, which like you can't discount that. And then it's about packaging it up in a manner that aligns with the developer's brand so that they can say these things and present these things in their own voice and tailor the product accordingly. So there's a lot. And a lot of it is just my own perspective. You know, I love cities, I love places, and I'm able to go, seems like they're kind of missing XYZ. I wonder if there's an opportunity there, you know, and then proving it out. You can have all the opinions in the world, but if you can't back it with some data or some research, then it's just another personal opinion.
And are you finding in the projects you're working on in different, different cities, different areas of cities, are these projects actually, do they look way different by the end? Not necessarily by what you're doing, but to fit the community? Or are you like, okay, that actually is when you leave a project, are you like, that really works for that area of Toronto?
Yeah. I mean, just generally speaking, I would say I think a lot of us feel this way. Like there's honestly no greater feeling than driving by something that you're like, oh my God, we were like, I remember when we were in the boardroom and we were looking at these plans and so-and-so wanted to do this, but we did this. Like, wow, look at it now. Equally, to be honest, there are those times where you're like, shit, like, oh man, you know what? We should have done XYZ when we knew we could and we didn't. And you can kind of see it as expression of the built product. But more times than not, it's like, okay, cool. Yeah, we did that. But
Yeah.
what was your question again? I think I just went right off.
No, I think it was about the process.
Yeah. So I will say this too. Sometimes I say the work that I'm doing at Junction is also some risk mitigation there.
Right.
A lot of the work I'm doing now, it's split between this project isn't going to come to market in 2 years, and we're very early days in the development of it, which like it's the starting point of like, what does the architecture need to look like? What is the design? What is the look and feel and why, right? What's the product mix? The second scope that I'm finding now a lot more is developers similar to the Surrey example, right? Like, hey, we're going to come to market. We're about 6 to 8 months out. Just want to have a second set of eyes. And again, like going in and telling someone where their vulnerable points are isn't necessarily easy, but I think it's a lot easier to deliver as someone who is advocating, but not so much in the weeds on it.
Right.
So a lot of this, half the scope is new stuff that is like years out. Half the stuff is like, we're coming to market. We just need assurance. Are we on point? Do you think that we have weaknesses? Are we vulnerable? And then, working towards getting them to a place where they're confident in what they're bringing to market.
Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say the one thing that this just makes me think of a tweet I saw this morning by Richard Whitstock, who at Domus Homes, right? And he just had the feedback from one of his rental projects, the staff, and it was like 1 beds, 2 beds, 3 beds. How many people have come in to inquire over the past week? What's the status of how many were rented up? And one thing that struck me, and I think that was the point of his tweet, I can't remember exactly what he said, but he shared the information. And it's like, we've had people on the show and you hear when people talk about housing, oh, there's not family housing. We need more family homes, right? Which is like a common idea in Vancouver, and undoubtedly it's true. But what I noticed was almost all of the inquiries were for 1 beds. It dropped dramatically for 2 beds, and it was 0 for the 3 beds. So it just seems like it's one of these, and I don't even know why I'm bringing this up, but it's more to the point where figuring out what the community actually needs and what you think it needs it's sometimes at loggerheads, and it's probably very hard to thread that needle. And that's kind of exactly what you do, right?
Yeah, I think too, that's such a, such a great, I'm sure his point of that, what I'm hearing is like, if we didn't have this feedback, if we didn't look at the data, if we didn't measure our efforts and really look at what people are gravitating towards, then we wouldn't have this foresight, right? We wouldn't have this thought. We wouldn't have this intel, if you will. I think it's super important. I think there's also this, like, as you know, we move through trends. We move through like a different way of living. 8 years ago, it's like a 3-bedroom downtown was on everyone's mind. They want that because we were so focused on the downsizer or someone who's living there. They want to move into the city, but it's by choice. It's not by necessity. And so if it's a choice, they want space. And now we're seeing like we have so many students. There's so much immigration. I mean, affordability is like, I'm sure many of those 1-bedrooms will be occupied by 2 or 3 people, but it's affordability factor. So if the affordability was there, would they not choose a 2-bedroom? It's like, is it price, product, price? Like at some point we will get back to a place where you'll need 2 bedrooms or those will be desirable, but we have real estate that lasts so long where the decisions are made during a specific time. It's like, how does the legacy part of this roll into it, right? Because for the developer, the developer is renting, so that's part of their portfolio for many, many years. But when you got to meet your financial requirements and no one's buying 3 bedrooms and 20% of your building is 3 bedrooms, you're like, what am I doing here?
Yeah.
This isn't going to work, But I believe that people want 3 bedrooms. It's just affordability.
Right. Must be, right?
I want to I want to get to the neighborhoods and sub areas that you're excited about because but first I kind of want to go back because I've been thinking about it since the beginning of the conversation about Vancouver kind of losing its shine a bit. What do you think needs
to? It hurts my heart to say that. So I want to go on. I want to make sure I make sure I express that.
I think a lot of people feel that way. I think so, right? I think we saw that in the last municipal election to some extent.
Our lowest turnout.
Well, yeah, but it's a sweep maybe for council. I guess my question is what do you think has to happen in Vancouver? Does it start at the buildings we're building, or does it start at the municipal level, or is it a combination of everything? Like what can Vancouver do to get its shine back, in your opinion, or what does it need to do?
Yeah, I think that's a layered question. I don't think any one group is responsible for all of it.
Right.
All I can speak to is where I know what we do can help facilitate a shift.
Yeah.
First and foremost is the city needs to feel safe. I know that's Ken Sim's, number one, our mayor. Do we say Mayor Ken Sim now? Or just
we do.
Okay. He just seems like such an approachable guy. That's like, what's up, Ken? That's first and foremost. The city has a lot of heavy lifting to do here.
Sure.
For sure. It is. I live in Chinatown. I lived in Yaletown for many years. Actually moved to Chinatown to get more soul. And boy, did we get it. But it's these are really good people. Bad things happen to good people. And, it needs to change. So first and foremost, that is the city needs to do what it needs to do, and it needs to take some big, big steps. What has been done is not working, and it needs to change. So we all know that, right? I think that Vancouver, I was saying this to someone else. I literally have a whole roll of photos on my phone that are like, this could be made better, the dead zones of our city. I think when I think about, actually, let me put this to you. What to you is the culture of Vancouver?
Yeah, Matt.
Well, no, I don't. I've never answered a question on this show before. I only ask
our brains shut down when somebody puts it on us. So that's
what is the but it is truly a hard question, right?
It is. It is a hard question.
And that's where I think we're lacking.
Yeah,
is that we don't have a clear sense. I think 15 years ago when we were like rallying around greenest city in the world, bike lanes, we're all very.
What about No Fun City? Did that stick around?
It's still a thing, I think.
Yeah. Beautiful and boring. I think there's a lot of things we've kind of talked about over the years that kind of describe Vancouver, I think sometimes, but
it is true. Like it was even 10 years ago, it felt like an exciting place to be.
It felt like a future city too, in a lot of like a very
It felt, when I think back to 2015, 2016, it felt like it was always sunny.
Yeah.
Like, and you were like, man, I'm excited to be here.
Okay, but the Olympics were like the best time ever. Yeah. I mean, that was 12 years ago or 13 years ago now, which seems wild. But like, even I was walking around the city, holy shit, it's a fun place. Like, I can't believe it. And I will also say, despite the really bad things that were happening over COVID, the manner in which we were able to engage with nature, our connection to nature, being able to, if we're cooped up inside, we have somewhere to go. That is what Vancouver has always been great at, right? We know that we are like a nature outside, almost sometimes to like, okay, enough with the hiking already, we get it. But the street activation, there's like, you can eat out on a patio and really rallying to support our local restaurants. And like, I haven't felt that type of real community in a long time. Maybe it might have been the first, to be honest with you, in this city. And it felt good, like we're supporting our local retailers, we're buying local, we're wanting to make sure, like, I hope these stores can open up again. I hope the patios stay. I hope, like it's just, through chaos, uncertainty, and fear, the manner in which people stepped up to come together is a really beautiful thing. And I think those are measures in which culture is fostered and should be like leaned into more to grow on that.
So, and what do you think? Because I've been thinking about this lately because I don't think we ever actually talked about this on the show, but we were in Colombia over the holidays and in Cartagena and
oh, it's beautiful.
So,
I heard.
So yeah, it's beautiful and it's kind of chaotic on the street. Like you'd never have AirPods in, right? No one wears AirPods because you'd get hit by a car or whatever. It's just you have to be like watching where you're going, and
you gotta be.
Yeah, you're not like staring off into space. Like when I walk my dog here, I walk by people. I'm like, oh, I didn't even notice that person. Like definitely didn't say hello. There, everybody's yelling and talking, and you're like, wow, this is like a really alive culture. And it, at least for me, made me think, oh man, all these Brazilians or all these people that are in Vancouver that go, oh my God, it's so quiet and lonely and boring. And you're like, no, it isn't. But then you go
somewhere that is activated.
Yeah, and you're like, wow. So what is it? Is it? I guess it's a very hard question to say what, but does that have to do with design? Does it have to do with like, I don't know, because you're saying out of COVID came sort of something that resembles that, right?
Yeah.
Like people actually engaging with each other and supporting local business and doing things that is not necessarily traditionally a Vancouver thing to necessarily do. Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
No, I'm totally, I don't have the answer to why we're this way. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I know that there's been articles written about it.
But it's like, amazing because there's people from all over the world that come here too, right? It's not like, oh, it's a specifically, from these, like whatever, this historical tradition. It's just, you know what I mean? Like we're a pretty diverse place.
Yeah, we're so diverse. I mean, when walking around downtown, I'm always, it's like everybody that walks, I will never walk with AirPods on because I'm just like the zombies are behind me. I got to stay ready. I got to stay alert. It's just the condition that I've been raised with is like eyes are out, right? But I do, it's a tricky thing, but I don't think, it's like sometimes when people are like, oh, it's just so complicated. Like you almost can't even talk about it because it's so complicated. This ain't complicated. This is like, how do we activate and give reason for people to come? I'm just using the city center as an example, which will also relay into our outer market conversation. But I just look at the place, and I also live here. I live downtown. I'm in the city, so this is what I see. And where I feel like we could step up and do our part, right? Again, it's not just on the development committee or the development industry to do this, but I think we have ways in which before we come to a community with an actual project, we talk about community engagement. For some that's sponsoring a soccer team, and for some that's, whatever that looks like. And it's all really good work. But if we want to create an environment of being socially active, then let's think outside the box and like activate spaces in the communities that we're going to, like turn their dead zones around, right? So if you're coming to like Alberni or somewhere in the West End, what is happening around the West End, which are just missed opportunities for people to come together in a meaningful way?
Denman.
And there you go, right? Yeah. I mean, look at all the retail on Denman.
It's a place to die.
That makes me so sad.
I mean, as a business, like we've often joked, like Denman seems like a place to go where you're you're dead in the water.
Yeah.
It's more appealing these days, I think, to be further east in the West End, more connected to other areas. But I think it's part of that, right? I mean, it's like I look at Denman. Although I drove down there the other day.
I haven't
think
been
it's-
down Denman,
but there have
very
been
recently.
moments, and I think it's maybe the commercial rents or whatever. Then you can't. There's not a lot of smaller restaurants that can take on those spaces. Perhaps I'm not sure, but it's yeah. What
Well,
is it?
smaller
The-
spaces. So if we
Yeah.
talk about that from like an F&B retail programming, which influences the work that we do, smaller restaurant is easier to manage, right? The smaller space is easier to pay a lease on. If it's a great restaurant, not just if it's a great partner, that business is now omni-channel. We know this. We've learned this, right? The restaurant business is not about the bodies that are coming in to sit at the table and turning tables. It's about, how do I push out the to-go food?
Right.
How do I create a window for people to grab and go? How do I, like, they have had to adjust their
Mhm.
model, like the small one, like the Denmans,
Sure.
right? Like, where does the Uber Eats pull up, or
Mhm.
how do they grab it? These are the things that we talk about now when we're looking at mixed use real estate. Is like, where's the Uber coming up? Where's the bike guy getting the food? Can you get, like, push food out of a window? Can you,
Right.
like, still maximize seating, but not be reliant on that as a support to these businesses? We're aware that your business is operating. You may be pushing product. You may be, whatever that looks like, but having that consideration for the physical space now in early days, knowing that this is now what they need from everything we've learned, that helps. But I'm really big on creating moments for people to come together in a city or in a city core or wherever it is that you're looking to develop, and just like doing something meaningful that is fun
Mhm.
and brings people together and shows an example, like really show and practice what people will do when there's an environment created for them to, like, spend time, hang out, sit on a bench. We've got a lot of, like, picnic tables up now, like in certain areas with, like, concrete
Concrete, yeah,
planters that have no plants in them.
and a ping pong table,
And
a
it's like,
concrete ping pong table.
nobody's doing anything here. This is actually scary, So that helps culture. I think my concern, and I don't want to just focus on like what's not great about the city, because we're all very grateful to live here. So keeping that in mind, but uh, I worry, like every generation does, like the really great talent leaving because they just can't make it work here.
Yeah.
And part of that really great talent is people in the arts, people in music, people in, whatever their cultural, they're in the culture, they're in arts and culture. Weaving them, bringing them into the fold of what we do, I think is a really great opportunity, because sometimes a developer isn't a culture maker.
Mhm.
And when they try to be, when they're not, it's just doesn't work. And why do all that heavy lifting on your own? So I think we're in an era of collabs, right? Every luxury brand everywhere is like collabing. Collaborations are huge. So if there's a cultural partner that you need at the table in order to like make this what it really needs to be to get people excited, then let's do it. I'm doing it in other markets. But there's lots to do. But I think if we can kind of own our part in it, I'm definitely always advocating for that.
Okay, so areas in the Lower Mainland you're excited about.
Yeah. So question, why is it a sub-market?
It doesn't have to be a sub-market. It can be. So I'm thinking like regionally, Brentwood, Burnaby, North Burnaby.
So the reason why I ask why it's a sub-market is, if, as you know, you're in real estate.
Yeah.
When the outer markets are outperforming what you consider to be the center point, are they no longer just their own market? Are they not? Are they not just their own market? Like Vancouver was Vancouver's priced X. Everywhere around that is slightly less based on its proximity to Vancouver. But if people are choosing they don't even need to look at Vancouver and they're looking at Surrey or Brentwood, and those prices are outperforming Vancouver in many instances. Yeah. So those are like their own markets, right?
Oh, I would even include downtown as a sub-market though.
sub-market? Oh, I see. Okay.
I'm not ranking them. I'm saying like specific specific markets.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
I thought it was like
no.
Vancouver's the market and then everyone is a sub.
Oh, no.
We've been criticized as being Vancouver centric on this program before, and we are not.
Okay, so
Oh, we kind of are.
you're man.
Yeah,
You
I think
operate
we
in the
gotta.
city
we
of
gotta.
Vancouver.
But I
we
didn't
own it.
mean sub like as in
No,
like,
no. You're.
But it wasn't.
Subpar.
It wasn't
I
a
want
judgment.
subpar.
specific.
We want.
What subpar markets in Vancouver
exactly.
are you?
I'm like,
Name
what
5
makes that-
subpar markets
What
around
makes
the
it a
world.
sub-market?
That would have been a better,
I was ready.
more interesting.
I was ready.
You got 5.
I was ready.
But
to
it
count
is interesting. Just as a, we've been kind of talking about this lately. How Vancouver's not the center anymore, and how Surrey and different markets operate.
Or like, yeah, exactly.
But the shift to Burnaby as being the center potentially, but now it seems even like I'm not even sure if that's still a thing. It's
I think
more
for the average person that is looking at real estate, they are not looking at the market regionally as we do. We look at Lower Mainland, Greater Vancouver. You know, we know the price per square foot: Port Moody, Brentwood, Surrey, Richmond, North Vancouver, West Side, downtown. Like, come on.
it's
much
only
as we're
industry
a
people that
city
listen.
of real estate sport, like
Yeah.
it's a sport here.
Yeah.
That level of looking at a market is not practical for
Right.
an everyday person, right? So you're asking me which markets I'm the most excited about,
right.
or
Yeah.
I would invest in, or
And it would be and larger. So when I say that, I mean, so maybe you're excited about Surrey or North Burnaby or Coquitlam.
Yeah.
Or a
Okay,
specific
so-
SkyTrain hub you're excited about, where you
all
think
SkyTrain hubs I'm excited about because that's where it's at.
Right.
I will say, putting my old school broker hat on first and foremost, because you have such a wide audience. Finding out what matters to you as an investor or purchaser is the most important, right? Like, what areas are you personally drawn to? It doesn't matter which is the highest trading or the most desirable from our perspective. It's like, where do you want to put your money? What's important to you? What do you care about? So that's the first thing, as you know, as trusted advisors. I'm the most excited about Surrey. Totally. Most of my real estate investments have been, unless they're out of province, my in province has all been in the city of Vancouver. I recently made an investment on a project I got to work on because I sold myself on it. It's that good, but I just think Surrey I really appreciate their OCP, their official community plan. I think that it takes into consideration the existing culture of Surrey, which is often not seen or understood, but for people who participate in it, it's thriving. I really appreciate the infrastructure, getting the train down in Langley, rapid transit. These are big moves. And I think it's one of those places where it's probably the most diverse. I love that about it. And yeah, I just I'm seeing, when every big player is moving to a specific area, like Burquitlam is the same, Brentwood. It's exciting because there's going to be so much there, and I feel like for people that live south of is it south of the river? Yeah, south of the river, right? They're always feeling like in order to get something, they have to come into the city or they have to go into a different community. And I feel like Surrey just wants to be Surrey. And it's a great moment in time for that. Like, get an Uber with your friends and go out somewhere great in Surrey. Like, get dressed up. Getting dressed up and going out doesn't need to be coming to Vancouver. It's, they want to stay in Surrey too, which is great. So that's where I put my money. I'm excited about it. I think it's going to be massively transformational. And it's not pie in the sky. It's very real, and the players are there, and it's only going to get better.
And do you have an area, like a region in the province that you're excited about, like outside of the Lower Mainland?
Victoria, I'll say the island, mostly on the Victoria side. I had when I was working with Aragon, there was quite a substantial portfolio acquired on the island, and it's a really cool place. I haven't spent a ton of time as a kid growing up. I didn't go there a ton, but going now and looking at it through the lens of what I do, which is like walk around, talk to people, see what's happening. There's some really beautiful, thoughtful development happening out there. And as we saw, people, I know at least 15, 20 people that moved from Vancouver to the island in the last 5 years.
Sure.
So it's
I feel like everybody knows 15 people that have moved to the island in the last 5
and
years.
you know, it's a lifestyle choice. I think that when you're dealing with someone who is, their value system is being guided by how they want to live. It's not necessity or compromise. It's like, I am choosing this environment. I'm choosing to live in this place because it's best for me, my family, whatever it may be. It's great to be able to match the living environment to that type of energy, because it's exciting.
I just have one more question.
Yeah.
Is there one trend you can see on the horizon or happening right now in development, multifamily, that you're most excited about?
Technology,
yeah, like integrated into the...
Yes, technology as a service. So shedding some light, the last 3 years, I'll use the luxury real estate as the example, but it's not the reason. Okay. But branded luxury was moved the most. People were choosing to live in environments that were, let's say it's the Fairmont or the Ritz or one of those branded lifestyle entities with the real estate development. So they're still residences. They're purchasing a condo, but they're choosing to live in the branded one. Why? Access to amenities. It's about the space, but it's more about the service. So I can get through my whatever Four Seasons resident app. I have concierge. I can get someone to pick up my kids to take them to piano. I can, use the space, use the amenity room for this when I'm recording a podcast. I can, all the things that you need to do. Convenience is the number one driver. And we are able to provide convenience by way of technology.
Interesting. So technology as a service.
Yeah. And space as a service. So it's not so much about what the room does, if I'm using it as that, the four walls. It's about accessing what you need within those four walls, right? Like your amenity is not just about the built amenity. It's about having concierge that will come up and drop off, XYZ, about having a driver on hand, about having the groceries delivered to you in a place that is, easily accessible or delivered in your suite, or, booking, having so much like your nails or your hair are being done in the building and being able to access how to do that. It's, and technology from a building performance standpoint. Again, the work that I'm doing in the States, it's like technology is just as important player as the concrete pouring, or, it's, and I haven't seen that here to that level. A lot of times the conversation is, well, when we're early development, we have to make sure that the building can accommodate technology. But we don't know what it's going to be in 3 years. It moves so fast, right?
Right.
But that's like, okay, so you're wiring to have internet access? Like, what does that mean when we're not considering it, but we're going to make sure that it can fit in after, if we don't even know what the technology is that's being used today.
But technology as a service is clearly like a cultural shift, right? The way that people are living is changed.
Look how we shop
in
now.
relation, right?
How quickly we shopped. I'm a brick and mortar. I'm a sucker to be sold. I love sales so much that like I put myself in the lion's den as much as possible to be like, sell to me. But all my essentials are done online. They're delivered. Because I just don't have the time. I don't want to do that. I just want it. I want it to be convenient, and I want access.
Right. Interesting. So it's not so much about, like seeing those outdated TV where you go through a townhome and it's like, oh, that that was before everybody had a 65-inch TV, like
Yeah.
the TV space, that it's more about kind of a cultural shift and how that's being incorporated into development.
Yeah. And I think also you bring on a good thing, and which we've been talking about in the boardroom for a while. So again, kudos to everybody. People don't want to be told what to do, right? If there's one thing you know for sure, I think one of the things is like a belief system that's been rocked in the last 3 years or whatever. If there's one thing that we've known for sure collectively is that you take stock of your life. You know what works for you. You know what didn't work for you. You cut out the things that weren't serving you as much because you had time to think about like heart and soul of life, right? Boundaries, whatever it may be. And part of that was everybody took serious stock of how their environment serves them, right? How does this accommodate my family? How does this accommodate me needing to work and then doing my workout and then all those things, right? So if there's one thing for sure that we know coming out of this is how I want to live and the way that my space accommodates me. We did a deep dive on that, everybody. So as a market, to not respond to that respectfully and be like, here are the, to default back to the life you always dreamed of, the life you want to live, 1 to 3 bedrooms starting at, it's like you're only ever talking to the people that are going to buy the real estate in that moment where, I think people are just getting used to having a dream again. They had to put their dreams on hold.
Yeah, right.
So maybe it's more about talking about it in a way that's like, we're striving for community. We want you to feel safe. We believe this is a reflection of everything that we, like the things that we know people want because we want them. And this is an expression of that. It just feels like it's a little more appropriate and of the time. So there's, but I am the most excited about technology because it's an unknown, pretty much. Like even just finding a property manager that can work with all these different ways of like connecting with our customer and our residents and using that technology and not being like, totally dated. There's a lot of opportunities to not exceed where people are at, just to meet people where they're at.
Maybe we'll leave it there. That's a great place to stop. 5 quick questions,
Okay.
lighthearted to end the show. We've kept you now for more than an hour, significantly more than
That's
an hour.
me. It's all me. I talk too much.
No, it's been great. Flew by. So question number 1 is one book that you'd recommend for our listeners.
I was going to say Urban Feminist. Leslie Kern. Yeah, that's a great read. And it's not just for women. So boys, buck up and have a read. It's a really fascinating, historical, and relevant view of urbanism.
Fantastic.
I your description earlier, I think it sounds really great. In the last few years, what is one new habit, belief, or behavior that has most improved your life? You kind of spoke to this, but
okay. So, couple things. Not feeling burdened by imposter syndrome, which is a different podcast all on its own, I'm sure.
Our imposter syndrome podcast. Come join us next week.
Imposter syndrome is not always like, I don't feel like I belong. It can manifest itself in a lot of different ways. So that's a real thing. So I'm glad that I learned that is a belief that is bullshit.
Yeah.
And false emotions appearing real, fear, right? And also the belief that boundaries are a good thing and should not be considered as like hardlining people. I think this relays into the real estate talk of like, we know what we want out of our space. I think that just having an opportunity the first time in my adult life of really taking stock of life and like what works, what doesn't. And my belief is that I won't do it if I don't care. If I'm not engaged, like mind, body, and spirit, I'm not doing it. I feel like the feeling obligated to do anything. I think that was maybe like one thing I was most relieved about when everything got kind of shut down and were put on pause was like, you mean I'm not obligated to go anywhere? Like I don't have to go to that networking thing or I don't have to do this. I think just no obligations, just be yourself, live your life, be authentic. Sometimes the noise of what we think we should be doing and who we think we should be or how we want people to perceive us, it's like can steer you wrong. So having that time and that pandemic time to be like, damn, who am I? What do I want?
That's a great one. What have you been binge watching lately?
Okay.
Or a movie recommendation?
Formula One.
The new
Drive to
ones.
Survive. Okay, so that is the product. Do you guys watch that?
I've haven't got through the whole thing, but I started.
Okay, so Formula One cracks me up because it's so much production and so much money for I still don't know what. I want to map on how the money moves through Formula One. But I am a huge Lewis Hamilton fan. He is a stand-up guy. I love the way he shares his short story perspective and he's a class act. But I love that show for the drama. It's like I could watch The Real Housewives.
Yeah.
Or I could watch Formula One, Drive to Survive. And right now I'm in Formula One.
This is so, I saw a headline where Netflix is not moving into the area of actual sports. They're moving into storytelling around sports.
Oh, yeah.
Which makes total sense,
and
right?
Showtime, I don't know, like if you watch the Showtime documentaries, they do amazing sports docs. And for me, I want the story. Like, okay, you got 60 points. Okay. But like, I like the drama.
Yeah.
I'm here for, but the Formula One, these guys are petty, like so petty. And it's just, I don't understand why it's so elite and so why it's such this like luxury. I just don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it. It's the same people. It's the same drivers moving around, but the production value is unreal. And then I would also give special shout out to another series that I just watched called The Romantics on Netflix. And it's a docuseries on Indian cinema, which for people who grew up on Indian TV and cinema, it is like massively part of our culture and way bigger than Hollywood.
Yeah. Oh, The Romantics.
The Romantics. Nice. I highly recommend it. It just like stands by, when you think of Indian movies, it's like singing, dancing, bright colors, and like, they just break out into spontaneous dance. It's like, yeah. And they explain the cultural reasoning why we love that so much. And yeah, it was good.
Well, maybe this is a good segue to favorite band or music.
Hip hop is number one. I listen to all kinds of music.
Yeah.
Grew up on all different kinds, but since a kid, hip hop is life. And I'll always go with Nas. Latest album, King's Disease 3, stellar.
All right.
And then Prince. I mean, Prince is everything, but.
Awesome. Huge Prince fan myself. Last but not least, something you have purchased for under $1,500 that has changed your life or at least improved it.
Evo membership.
Oh, yeah.
I got rid
That's
of
a
my
good
car.
one.
Really?
Wild.
Evo
I've been driving since I've been 14.
All electric, right? So are they electric or hybrid
all, what are they called? Prius?
They're all Prius.
Which I love.
Right.
Yeah, I'm in between vehicles and I thought I'd just try it out. And I was having anxiety attacks.
Yeah, I was going to say.
Ever driven, but mostly everything I do is in the city. And I love the Evo. Like never pay for parking.
Yeah.
They're so accessible. Like just to even motor around downtown, like going from one place to, if it's like go to a meeting, go to the gym, go to another meeting, go home. It's like that could be $30 in parking.
Yeah. We live very close and Evos are everywhere. So it's super easy to get one.
I love it. Yeah. I think it's something kind of communal, like the shared experience. I don't know how long it'll last. Again, trust me, like I'm a driver, but
growing up in North Delta.
Oh yeah.
I was
trust. I was driving at 14.
I was going to say, that's car country. Yeah.
And it's, when you turn 16, I was like, yeah, I don't want no cake. Just take me to the
Yeah, everybody gets their license.
Yeah.
And yeah.
But that has changed my life. That's a game changer. And I will add to that I, as a personal exercise, was looking to get a better connection with my city because I love it, but I'm also frustrated, and I, can get caught on ways that it's not could be better.
Yeah.
And I was just not getting enough connection with people, like everyday connection, walking down the street, saying hi to somebody, and by the way, y'all, we need to be way nicer. There's just way too many people that don't say hello to one another. And then you go to other places in the world, you're like, oh my God, they're so nice. I'm shocked. It's like, no, you're shocked because we don't do that enough with each other. So please be kind and say hello. But by walking more, I'm seeing people, I'm feeling connected. I feel like I need to understand my own city a bit better. And it has not been an inconvenience, and it's been but much more benefit than a detriment, and I'm enjoying it. So that $15 or $20 membership has changed my life.
Oh, right on. That's a great answer.
Well, how can people find out more about Junction Collective and about you, Ameet?
Yeah, so thank you for that. Junction-co.com is the website.
It's a great site, by the way. I love it. It's super unique, and it's visually it's a very cool site. So worth checking out.
Thank you. I appreciate that. It's wild when it's your own thing. I've done a million of these for other people, or at least, getting people to express yourself, share your thoughts. And then it's like, when it's yourself. But, so I thank you for that. And I appreciate the feedback. LinkedIn, Instagram, Junction Co _co. I don't even know, but go to the website. It's all there. And check us out on LinkedIn. And I'd love to, anyone challenging any of my thoughts or ideas. I love dialogue and welcome the conversation. And also look forward to seeing more diversity and women on the show. So exciting. I'm going to give you 5 to 10 names before I leave.
Fantastic.
And anybody looking to challenge our ideas, give us a week to recover. We've been thoroughly beat up here. We're licking our wounds for the next.
No, I also want to say I really appreciate what you guys are doing here, facilitating these conversations. It's awesome and much, much, much needed.
Appreciate it. Well, thanks again for taking the time. That was fantastic.
Pleasure.